harder actually.
Okay, let's play tonisation to start with. And first position. We're going to do shifting. Shifting, what do you need to check in your students before you start thinking about actually doing anything outside of first position?
They're stabilised to support the violin.
Good, that the violin is supported how?
On their head.
Good. Excellent, that they're not using that left hand to do the holding as well as the playing, the left hand fingers. Good, another thing please, Kate?
Like in first position or just in general?
In their general playing, before they've learned shifting. So you're going to check that this is working properly. What else do you need to check is working properly?
Your nice waterfall made.
Exactly, very good. That you've got a good waterfall. Devon, something else?
Intonation?
Yeah, exactly. So that they've got a really good understanding of how to play in tune, especially using ringing notes, yeah? And Hannah, one more thing. Over here.
They're using like the tips of their fingers rather than being flat.
Yeah, good that the hand shape is right. Excellent. And also that they're not gripping with the left thumb. You can have a student, it's unusual because normally if you grip with the left thumb it's because there's something wrong here. But you can, it's possible to have this all looking fine and then either because you've worked on the head but you haven't yet loosened up the left hand, or just because they're sort of anxious about it, that it's quite grippy there, even though it doesn't need to be because it's not like making up for a lack of correctness here.
What's the thinking behind using the word waterfall?
That it falls straight down.
If you tip water in your hand, it will just dribble straight down.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And so I think, so let's have some ideas about preparatory exercises you can use to check, or games you could use to check the left thumb.
Thumb tapping.
Yeah, very good. And they might do that like while they're playing Twinkle or something. Any open string you could try tapping. Yeah, good. Another one?
Is it like maybe like making sure you can put something under?
Yeah, good. Like playing with a pom-pom or something in there. Yeah, excellent.
Slideys? Or is that?
I think that would be the next thing. That would be the first thing towards shifting rather than... I think the other thing I was thinking is of like waving Twinkle or high five Twinkle. Let's all play high five Twinkle. So you guys can play in pairs. And what I mean by high five Twinkle, let me demonstrate with you, Joe. It's every time you have an open string, you're going to give me a gentle high five. So we're just going to like hold our hands together here, rather than like if you do that, obviously, then that's a problem. So off you go. Yeah. So the teacher's not going to move. The student has. I mean, you might help them a little bit early on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get in pairs and choose who's going to play first and who's going to be the teacher first. And just practice how that's got to work with the, I'll give you a piano part so that you can play together. So obviously you do have to leave the high five early in order to get ready for the note that you need your finger on. Oh, it doesn't matter. Although I'm sure anyone watching will appreciate it. Right, so here's your introduction. that?
Take a violin when I do.
You think you up for what?
Violin.
Is it ouching? Okay, so what did you notice?
It was hard.
It's hard, isn't it? What's hard about it? One thing, Kit?
Getting the fingers back in time quickly.
So what does that teach your students and us to...
Think ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Even when you think ahead, it's still hard.
And to time it, yeah? To think about timing it, which is obviously a key part of shifting. This is not like particularly to do with shifting that, but you know, just like being able to actually work out when you need to get ready for the next thing so that you're perfectly ready by the time you get there. Good. And obviously it's checking that the violin position is all stable. You will also see if you've got a student who has a funny thumb position, you'll see that they just get back to it straight away. So I think this is a really good exercise for fixing a left thumb problem if there is one. That's your first port of call. You don't really want to even think about shifting until the left hand is settled. But this game can be a really good way, right? Can you take it much slower? Can you find the right position? Or also you can ask them to stop, check their thumb, and then keep going only once they've checked that it's the right position. It's helpful to draw a little face. I think most of my kids quite like the, you know, you can like put something like that so that they can see the eyes, but you want to hide the mouth.
I do a buck tooth.
Excellent. Exactly, those kind of things. And where exactly do we want the thumb to be?
Beside the neck, not under it.
Good, to the side of the neck, not under it. More details, please.
Flexible. Like be able to move.
Yeah, you do want it to be able to move, but when it's settled, where do you want it to be?
In
There's a
front
little
of
bit.
your finger, base finger.
In
Opposite the
front
base
of?
joint. Well, opposite the base joint, but it would end up being in front of your first finger.
In front
Sorry,
of?
I
mean this way.
Yeah, I mean like nearer to you, nearer to your face, than this part.
No, I would say that's not correct, I'm afraid.
Okay.
That you want it in line so that it's slightly behind where the finger is opposite, where the one would be. Like if you put the one in normal position, so on D, that the thumb would be sort of where E flat would be.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Ooh.
Because you want it to act like another finger and not an opposable thumb. That's when you introduce tension in bringing it opposite.
I remember talking about see where their hand,
Yeah.
when they flop it, where it actually lies and it's just really relaxed.
And it will always be behind the first finger. You'll never see a child who ends up like that.
So when I talked about it before, it was between there and there basically. It can be.
But show me what you mean.
For me, it is where you're saying. But I have a slight variance between kind of opposite second, first order.
I don't think that they are properly relaxed then.
Relaxing them.
Because the whole way the hand works is that if you're not engaging any of your muscles, your thumb goes that way, right? That's the design of your hand. Your hand does not go here without engaging muscles. That's what that muscle does.
Okay.
But there's that muscle and then the muscles there, I guess, as well, which it does bring it forward a little bit. That one there.
Yeah, but everything you were saying is completely correct, but you're still showing that there is a slight curvature this way, but it's not here.
So I thought you had to have it slightly behind so that when you put your first finger down.
Yes, behind. As in
No,
away from your face.
No, I mean there, so that when you put your first finger down, it comes down in the right spot rather than this.
But why would it change where the finger goes down? It's just what you're used to. There are lots of amazing violinists who play with their thumb further up.
Yeah,
But
I think part.
This is my understanding that Dr. Suzuki always said that the thumb should be slightly behind the first finger, and that's the guide
I think
that is based on a relaxed hand.
when our fingers are in the way, it's stopped by the first finger. Usually it touches, right? If that finger wasn't in the way, it might touch the second finger. So the relaxed position I do think is probably not behind necessarily.
But if you think about then adding something in between those,
Yeah.
And I guess the pronation as well is another factor.
Yeah, but your finger wouldn't be touching the thumb because you make sure the fingers are curved anyway, so technically your thumb should be tucked away anyway.
well, I think what Hannah means is that it could be that. But what I'm thinking is when you put something, when you make the gap between the top joints of the bottom joints of the fingers and the thumb bigger, that's going to make it further away unless you're engaging this muscle to bring it round this way.
Okay. That tends to be mine, but then I don't engage my base muscle, my thumb, as much as you're doing there to bring your thumb forward.
That's exactly what I'm
Yeah, but
saying is a good idea not to.
But it feels like less work for me to have my thumb there rather than here. It feels like I'm stretching here more.
Well, you're exaggerating a lot though. Everyone pick up their violins, let's
Yeah.
actually do it on the violin, not in the air. So if you put your finger, let's put our 1, 2 and 3 on the A string in red finger position. If you bring your thumb so that it's between 1 and 2,
That's really.
I don't think that I can do that without engaging this muscle here. There.
Yeah, I'm
Mm.
feeling tension as soon as it's
Yeah.
moving, but
Whereas when it's like, almost like you're trying to keep it in that line.
yeah, mine falls where you
Yeah.
falls.
I can put mine there and it's like just as relaxed, but I think I do put mine there.
Yeah, but I do also think that you have some tension in your left hand.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so you're saying that the thumb should be here?
Yeah. I mean, there is beautiful, like, relaxation visible in your hand there.
As opposed to there?
Yeah.
I guess that does make shifting easier as well.
I think,
'Cause if you're going like that, then you need to put it back anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the thing that I say to my students, which I find is really helpful, is that if you think about having, like, in terms of, you know, what we've evolved to develop, what's amazing about primates is the opposable thumbs, and that's what enables you to grab things. And in the bow, we need to basically grab it, right? You need to sometimes give power to the bow from that, like making a fist. Whereas in the left hand, you never want to be engaging that, like, grabbing, because it's about pulling, like, the weight that way.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so it's like on the left, we're trying to just leave the thumb as if it's a fifth finger, whereas on the right, it's using the opposability. And so that means that is sort of, well, I can't do it without changing my position, but there.
Mm-hmm. I'm teaching the complete opposite.
Well, you know,
Okay.
I mean, this is the thing that I'm at pains to keep saying, is that there are amazing violinists in the world who, you know, have their thumb much higher. It definitely helps with fourth fingers to have it higher up, because the balance of the hand is further this way, so therefore it's easier. But I think that that's because you're engaging that grabbing movement. So that's why I don't think.
My pinkies curve in, so I kind of have to do that. I've got short pinkies, and this is my natural hand position.
Yeah.
So I have to actually actively work
Mm.
against that.
And that's one of the reasons I don't subscribe to the your pinky must be curved thing, because they're so much smaller and more pathetic. And if you make them curve, then you're changing the whole balance of the hand. And I think that brings with it more tension than is worth it for the benefit. Okay, so that's like how to make sure that your students are well set up, ready for shifting. And it may take you, 6 months to get to the stage where you feel like, okay, now we're ready. Hopefully it won't, because hopefully you will have had your eye on these things anyway. But once you're ready, basically we've got several different strands to bring together for the ultimate like aim of being able to shift in and out of positions and play in different positions really well. And the first one that I think is helpful for the students is to practice playing in different positions. So that's not strictly speaking shifting, it's just finding a new position and staying in it. So most teachers would use twinkle in third position maybe, either starting on the 1 in G major or in A major on the D string, on the note D. And you know, you might want to go back to being sort of as if you're in pre-twinkle stages. Go over 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're really finding which finger pattern.
Yeah, I'm not thinking.
Yes. And they can play that in second position as well. Lots of the book one early pieces work really well. What you need to be aware of when you tell the parents that you want them to practice the easy pieces in third position is what note to start on, because they don't all start on 1. For example, go tell up Ray, do you want to start on a 3? Lightly Ray, you want to start on a 1? I've never met a child who wants to play O'Connell for Children in third position. But you know, May song, Allegro, starting on a 4, all of those sorts of. So basically your key note is G here, so you need to find where to start from using that as your home key note.
Why is that your key note?
Well, you tell me.
Ring.
Yeah, excellent. Ringing notes. It's going to be the easiest note for them to tune because it's going to make the G ring the most. I think by now they're extremely good at playing on D and A. A reason to play on D and A versus A and E would be, Joe?
Sorry, ask the question again.
A reason to play on D and A rather than using A and E more would be what?
More ringing notes, but also it could be a bit too high for them right now.
Well, it's not going to be any higher for their fingers, is it? But what do you mean? I know you mean the same thing I'm thinking.
Yeah,
of.
like the pitches will go really quite high. And
Yeah, but it's going to sound horrid.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're listening to like the first time they've practiced that in third position, it's going to be really unpleasant. And we must remember that if something sounds awful, someone's not going to want to practice it, and the parent's not going to want to do it with them. Yeah. Whereas, okay, let's try it here. Even if it's not beautifully in tune and it doesn't have the best sound in the world, it's going to sound a lot nicer than up a fifth. And you want them, you know, obviously you don't want to ignore the E string later on, but I think it's a friendly place to start on DNA. The elbow is settled, they don't need to think about coming forward to use the G string, you know, they're kind of at home there. So lots of playing in third position, listening for the ringing sound. They can play with the accompaniments if they want. Do any of you use an app to change the keys?
No.
Okay, Any Tune is a really good one. So you can literally set any pitch. It's so good. I think it was like a 5 or something. But, you know, particularly for like the sort of book 4s, by the time the kids get to them, they're probably teenagers or approaching teenagehood, and they're very excited. Well, they're all excited by technology, aren't they? But, you know, they can work their way around the phone. It's quite a nice thing to be able to say, okay, if you get this, then you can practice your perpetual motion. Where is it? What am I saying? What's it called? Any Tune. Oh, can't I see it?
It's available on Android, I hope.
I think that they probably do. Oh, there it is. Oh, of course, it's taken itself off my phone. Anyway, you can literally set it to B flat major perpetual motion, and then do the same in C, and then do the same in D, and then do the same in E. Or you can, you know, ask them to practice 7 different keys so that they've practiced every key, etc., etc.
So you'd have that song on your phone, and it will just pick up your.
Yeah. So you pull it through from your library.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to gather around and have a look, it's just like a pretty standard thing like that, and then if you go to the songs, that will bring you to all of the ones, or your playlist will take you to the playlist you've got on your phone. So it's not, it doesn't talk to Spotify, of course, because none of them do. But like, so, okay, perpetual motion, for example, here we go. And you can change the tempo. Oh no, that's the bit. Yeah, no, that's the bit. So you can change the tempo as well.
Sounds like a horror film.
Yes, and then you can.
What the?
That's changing the pitch.
What did you do? Oh, okay.
It tells you how far away from the original you are. So you are now 2 semitones down from the original, i.e. a whole tone down.
Right, okay.
And then the tempo is in terms of how fast it's going according to the original.
Oh, right.
And you can also, I think, I haven't used this feature, but I think you can save them. So you can have, you know, like your B flat major saved. I mean, it doesn't take any time, which is why I haven't done it. But and you can do it for any piece that you've got in your library. So I do recommend that. And it's also really helpful for their listening in terms of just being able to change the tempo.
Is it any tune or?
Any tune. It's an orange quaver. Is the
Do you get the paid-for version or the?
I had, yes. I think you can only change it a certain number of times if you get the free one or something.
Oh, will it ask you in the app to do it? Because it did look like there was a different one, like there was a pro version or a non-pro version. It just, yeah, it says in-app purchases.
I don't remember, to be honest. I've had it for so long.
Alright.
It's great though if you're running play-togethers as well and you don't have a pianist. If you're using backing tracks or in group, like if you've got violins and cellos together, you know, you can just, rather than going to the cello version, all of that, you can just change it down the string. Or
Also the speed shifter went a bit mad. The other app for slowing down, that I've been recommended for slowing down tunes, stopped being able to load. It's
Oh,
just
really?
gone a bit mad, yeah,
Oh,
in the last 6
that's
months.
AVRSN app, isn't it?
yeah, mine is fine.
Is
I
that?
use it all the time. Yeah, I do find it a bit
Quite
more
amazing.
user friendly than this one.
Maybe try reinstalling it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, maybe it was when I installed it.
Good. So I think playing with accompaniments is really helpful because obviously it keeps them in tune. Okay, so at the same time as them practicing, maybe one review each practice in third position or second position, I sort of went through a bit of an experimental stage with trying to introduce second, third and fourth all at once, because once you get to fifth you start to change your hand position because you're touching against the shoulder of the violin, but first, second, third and fourth are pretty much all the same there, just a different angle there. And obviously your fingers are closer together in the higher positions. But then I've got loads of kids who are good at shifting, and Birdie, who's on Witch's Dance, is just sort of starting ghosties and stuff. So, well, not starting, doing ghosties in different positions, but not shifting in and out yet. So, I guess I should do it with her.
What are the ghosties again?
So, we're going to cover that now. Okay, so at the same time as they're playing loads of pieces in third position, it's a very good thing to do in group at your group's level. And obviously if they don't have a 3 tape, I would actually give them back a 3 tape. So as a quick review of how I deal with the finger tapes, I would have 1, high 2 and 3 during book 1, sometimes a spot or another strike for 4, often a 4 tape by the time they get to like perpetual motion and then Gossec. And the minuets and things, something for the 4. And then the first one I take off would be the 2, and that would probably be by the end of book 1. I would want them to just have 1 and 3 and maybe something for 4 still. And then I would say most of mine still have those tapes on by the end of book 2. Sometimes we will have dropped the 1. It's quite useful on Mignon to still have a 1 tape so that they can sit behind it in all of this section. So if you can really see, don't touch the one tape because this is a low one, that's helpful. But definitely you want to make sure they've still got a 3 tape, and that is really helpful for shifting. And really by the end of book 3, most of my students could go without any tapes at all, but I say to them, I'm leaving a 3 tape on just for your shifting, because book 4 shifting is really tricky to do without that visual guide. And then sometime in book 4 they get rid of the last tape and don't have anything. There was a student in my group who had a 1, 2, 3 and a 4 tape, even though she was in book 6. And I was like, come on kid, what's going on with these? And she was like, it's not my violin, I just rent it. And I was like, you're allowed to take the finger tapes off. So please don't have any finger tapes on after, well, I would say at least book 5, unless it's temporary, like to put one on to help them with a shift or something, fine. But like, you know, their violins should look like ours by then, really. Okay, so this is what I teach as ghosties. Let's all do it. And we're thinking, making sure that they understand that if this is your violin neck, kind of from behind, yeah, that it looks like a weird cat nose. That when you put your finger down, if the string is here, when you put your finger down, that's when you're playing. But when you're shifting, you want to be on the top of the string. So this is what our ghostie looks like. So first of all, we would practice, let's practice making, could you just turn the computer this way, Daniel, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Hi. Thanks. So practice making like just ghosty noises like this. Lovely. And what will happen is you'll see some kids can't play lightly and some kids are doing this. And so that might be a whole week of work in itself, is just actually learning how to get this working without anything happening here and without engaging the finger. So, you know, depends where they are in the music. If you've practiced, they should be able to do that movement without, you know, messing about with this, but it might feel different to suddenly have the one on, etc. Anyway, so once they can do that, then we're practicing. Ready, play. Now we're going to do that ghost sound. So pick your finger up until you're just lightly on the string like a butterfly. I'm going to do 1 down bow and slide up to your 3 tape, which you don't have, but your students would. And then you're going to drop your finger back down to the fingerboard. Okay, then we're going to pick it up, slide down like a ghost, and then drop it into the fingerboard and play busy, busy, stop, stop. Good, so as long as they need to be able to get those 3 things very separately sorted out. And then we're playing, okay, 1 down bow, and then the ghostie, drop your finger, and the 3rd down bow. Let's try that. Stop, raise your finger like a ghost. Good, and drop. And then we reverse it, stay there. Good, ghostie. And then 1 more up. Good, and then once they've got that, that turns into... You can just join in when you've got it. Make sure they're listening for is that you don't hear this. So it's not a siren, it's like a ghost, you know, harmonic sound. And then so once they can do that, we would do 10 of those on the A string for a week, and then once they've got it really good, we would do it on each string, ideally 10 on each string. And those are what I call the ghosties.
And how come you don't press the finger all the way into the fingerboard?
I'm going to do it again to you. Can you answer your own question? What do you think would be a problem with that?
You might make a noise when you are shifting?
You might make a noise. You definitely will make a noise when you're shifting. The idea that you won't hear shifts is mostly wrong. Like, actually, if you listen to someone amazing play, you do hear where they're shifting, and it's part of the music. And I think that that's one of the reasons this is really helpful for them to understand, is like, this is the sound of a shift. Obviously there are some shifts that are jumping shifts, or you take your bow off or you stop the bow, so that you don't always hear that. But you know, if you play we would have played so that you don't. So all of those sounds that you hear are part of the music. You wouldn't try and get rid of them, otherwise it just becomes very glitchy, because there's all this stopping. The music just comes as part of that. But Kit, can you think of another reason that it would be a problem to have your finger on the fingerboard all the time?
Moving the finger.
Yeah, exactly. So it's more tense, isn't it? Or more engaged when you're down in the string. You will also like run a hole into your finger if you do that all the time. And the thing about shifting is it often has to be light and fast. Yeah, so if you're thinking about doing a very big shift, if your finger's engaged like a real note all the way through, that's going to slow you down. Whereas if you're playing like that, you'd have to get there really quickly, and you wouldn't be that quick if you were having the finger down all the time.
And a shift down will probably yank the violin out from under their chin.
Could do,
If
yeah.
they're concentrating on other things.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what you see when you start to do vibrato. Often when the vibrato is too like grippy, is this. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about right now. So ghosties on each string, I would just stick with using the one for now. The first finger and the thumb are kind of your guides in and out of different positions. We want to feel the shift. You want to be able to kind of measure how far the shift is between those points of contact of the thumb base and the tip of the finger. And most of the time also the base of your first finger. I would introduce tonalisation in different positions. And that's really helpful on the major and minor front, because then they're doing different finger patterns as well. Whereas all those major pieces, if your one is the keynote, you're going to be in yellow with a hot pink 3 all the time, which is great because yellow is the most challenging position to play really in tune, but it's not great in that you've also then got to be able to play in other positions as well. So I would say that if you're thinking about book 2, as you're approaching the last few pieces, so maybe by the time you get to Lily, you should have someone who's very good at their ghosties, who's very good at playing in different positions, and then you're kind of ready to start putting it together. I think a D major 2 octave scale is a really helpful place to introduce a shift. They've got the finger patterns, they understand how it's supposed to sound. So we play a D major like this. Let's play it together.
When you say different positions, do you mean second, third and fourth, or more than that?
Different finger patterns and also different positions.
Which positions do you do?
Yeah, second, third and fourth if you're doing those, or just what first and third if you're going to stick with them. I don't have a strong feeling on. I think there are pros and cons to teaching the 3 at once. I think the pros are that you get better at all of them, that you have more of an understanding of the fingerboard as not just this place and this place. But the cons are that you're less likely to have good intonation because you're learning 3 different or 4 different finger pattern, very tiny slight variations all at once. It could be a bit much, a bit overwhelming for some of the kids. So I think it's sort of in the balance for me whether which one is the best option. Probably to do with which child is in front of you. Okay, so D major scale, we're going to practice busy, busy, stop, stop on each one, and I'm going to play my turn, your turn, because it gets a bit funny during the shift. So, my turn, your turn. there now. Best friends. If they haven't done lots of playing in third position, you might want to set the fingers on the A string, but I'm hoping by now that they will have, so you don't need to do that. Now, a little ghosty down to A1. Put on the 2. And then we'll just play the rest of it all together. Very good. I'm just going to see if they're actually fixing the problem out the front that I've been annoyed with them for ages about. No. They're just putting up more stupid rubbish. Okay. Thought it was too good to be true.
It might
Right.
be tomorrow, it might be putting that
No, it's around another problem.
Oh,
Anyway, so you want to isolate that shift so that they really understand what's happening. And then obviously you can go to individual bows. Stop, put a little ghosty in. And then drop your one when you get to the D. Put in the ghosty, drop the 2. Because the thing you really want to avoid is students who think that when they go into third position, what they do is that. There are some points where we want to do that, but it's much more important for them to measure the shift and to get it right, the right distance, to have that tactile relationship to their instrument than it is to practice going like that. Because when they've got the finger tape there, they can just look at it and they'll put it in the right place. As soon as you take that finger tape away, they're not necessarily going to be able to get it in tune. And we are aiming to not have finger tapes there for ever. Yeah? Any questions so far?
is that one's open and closed?
You have to be blocking fingers to be able to come back to the 1 after you've put the 2 down to slide.
You can take the one off once you're there. I just want the slide so that you're measuring the shift.
And it has to be on the 1 rather than the 2.
So
Yeah,
either
because
finger.
you shift on the lower finger.
Shift down a little bit.
So I'm talking about on the way up. We're taking the 2 off to slide
Yeah.
on the 1.
Yeah, so shift on the lower finger is a pretty much universal rule about shifting.
So you're always shifting on the 1.
Nearly always. I'm not going to say always, as in there are exceptions, but basically, certainly for elementary, like basic shifting, yes, you want to shift on the lower finger. Because also, what's confusing for the ear, if you hear a note, is if it's higher than the one you're going to. So if you play, what you hear is that, whereas if you play, the approach becomes part of that note that it's still taking you towards the right place. It hasn't kind of gone over and then back. Does that make sense?
It's kind of choosing what shift you're hearing.
Yeah, but you wouldn't. I can't think of a musical sort of scenario in which you would want to hear the note above the note you're going to, because that's really actually changing the tune. Like if you think about,
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
do you know what I mean? So I think as soon as you hit, like, because your ear picks up the direction, but also the kind of outer limits of where you're
interesting.
going. Yes. Then I think you want the approach to take you to the note you're going to.
Rather than for you to drop back.
Yeah.
And then would you do scales with second position?
In second position, yes. I wouldn't be teaching.
With the
Like
ghost,
what's
like with the ghosties?
what scale are you thinking of that would shift into second position, having started in first?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I can't think of any off the top of my head that would start in first and then go into second. Because if you're thinking about C at this level, I mean, obviously in the world there are, but if you're thinking about this level, like C major, you would just stay in second position. I think one of the problems with second position is it's so close that it's difficult to kind of isolate the ghosties and make it sound clear, especially if you're playing like a B and C. So I think that I wouldn't do that at this stage.
Okay.
Good thinking though. So I think then the next thing I would be doing, this is a really fun game that everybody loves. Do you know that? Okay, let's play that. So perpetual motion, every fourth note is a harmonic on whichever string you're on.
And you're playing the tune in first position.
And if you want to play it with the kids and they want a challenge, you can play Bang Bang You're Dead or Sudden Death or some other gory game. Do you remember what I mean by those? You haven't been around me for as long. Hannah, do you? Okay, so Bang Bang You're Dead is you've got 3 lives. If you we'll play it now. If you mess up once, you go down on 1 knee but you keep playing. You mess up again, you go down on 2 knees but you keep playing, and you go mess up again and you're out, and some of the children will like to do a very spectacular death.
I like that they're in control of letting everyone know.
Yeah, exactly. It works on a trust basis, like many things in Suzuki. And Bang Bang and Sudden Death is just you make a mistake, you're out. Yeah, I think with this game, with these 2 games, the children really love them. Some of the parents are a bit like, you know, talking about shooting and losing your lives and etc. I mean, you know, you have to do what is right for you. I'm leaning into the fact that kids like gory stuff, and you know, like there are loads of games we play where you've got a life and then you're out if you die. Like I have had one complaint about it in my life, and I can't really find it within myself to take it that seriously. But I do think what is easily done in this situation is if you pitch it wrong, there'll be someone who's out immediately all the time. And so if you're doing that, then you're making it too hard as the teacher. That's not their fault. Unless they're mucking about, it's not their fault. So when you play this game, everybody should have a really strong chance of at least not going out. And really, sudden death should only be once you think everyone in the room could do it if they really focused. And if they're just dropping like flies, then it's too soon. You've made it too hard for them. So the kind of serious bit of that is like you have to judge it so that, you know, a bit like that thing of you never want to set practice that the child can't do. You don't want to set a game that the child is definitely going to lose.
So I guess if you've started it in a group and you realise that they're dropping like flies, I guess you could die of something.
Yeah, and then you can just say, God, sorry, I seem to be killing off all the children. Let's make it a bit easier, or you know, whatever. Yeah. So we're going to take this at a nice, appropriate pace so that none of you die. actually shifting in pieces.
So what was it? Did you just call it perpetual motion? Perpetual motion.
Shifting perpetual motion.
How many slideys would you do before you do ghosties? Like, when would you?
I don't talk about slideys, I just talk about ghosties. What are you?
Oh, okay. When you just come up and down the neck of the violin without any fingers.
Okay, it's just a check for me. So if they're able to do it with no problem,
Okay.
so if you've got this happening, then as many as they need to get to this. But if that's what happens the first time and then you can add the one and that's what happens, then let's go.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just about where they're at with that. I think it's really helpful for the parents and the children to understand that, like, quite a lot of violinists and teachers talk a lot about relaxation. I don't think that's that helpful, because if you were thoroughly relaxed, you'd just lie on the floor, right? There's no way to actually control any of your body without using tension. That's how we work. But what I do think is really useful is for them to know that one of the difficult things about playing the violin is knowing how to isolate the muscles that you need while leaving the ones that you don't relaxed. So this, case in point, the ability to do this is to be able to use these muscles for the big movement, to be able to mobilise these muscles to hold your wrist straight so that it's not waggling about like this, but to keep this relaxed so that you're not doing that. So that's quite a lot of different things happening, even just to get to this, without either this happening or that happening. And I think to think about isolating muscles and which muscles to release is a really helpful phrase rather than relax, because relax is sort of, and release is like, oh yeah, I can just release something. Like it doesn't mean that everything then turns into sort of ragdoll-ness. You know what I
Very
mean.
elegant ending to that.
Yes, and my best work. Good. Okay, so then I think for most of my students at this point, they are ready to, if I'm worried about their shifting, maybe learn something like little extra pieces that have shifts in them. What's that book?
How muscles learn?
Neil. McKay, thank you. What's it called? I can
Changing
picture the
positions,
front
I
of it.
think.
Yeah, like etudes for position changes, something like that.
Brown with the yellow
Exactly.
picture.
Yeah.
Nice tunes in it.
Yeah, so they might have like little things like or like, you know, something that's just really simple that's got the shifts in them, because the Suzuki pieces that have shifts in mostly are quite straightforward, sort of shifting from one position into another without using what I call the guide note, the first finger or whichever finger you want to take you there. So the first time we would shift would be at the end of the musette for the harmonic.
Right.
And then you've got the harmonics in Boccherini that most of us add. But two, none of the pieces are going to have shifting in apart from those two little bits, right? So then if you're thinking about during book 2, you want them to become proficient at shifting so that by the time you get to book 3, just grab your book 3s if you've got them with you. We can pretty much do all the shifting that is written into the book. That is my aim.
There is a Suzuki shifting book.
Yes, I don't know it, I should do.
I've got it at home. It's changing positions. It's like the first 5 positions or something.
If you fancy bringing it in, that would be lovely.
No, I'll bring it next one.
Thank you.
I'll mention it in there.
So although it says practice in third position as well, using their fingering indicated under the staff, I find this a really dissatisfying piece to play in third position. I'd much rather they played a whole bunch of other pieces. Martini. Sorry, I didn't say. Done 1, 4. It's just so. It's so horrible. That's what they're going to play loads and loads of times.
It's the
It's got a D sharp in. I think it's too much anyway.
it's the new edition that's got that shift in it.
Oh no, it doesn't have the D sharp because you would come down there. Then when would you go back up? Anyway, I've never taught that because I don't like it myself. But like I said, we are doing lots of other pieces in third position from book 1 and 2. So if we're just thinking about shifting, Martini has no shifting in it. The first shifts you're going to get are in the minuet, minor minuet, on page 13.
Do you teach it in first position like the first week and then bring in the shift? Or?
I don't generally. I do if they're having trouble pitching it, but I think that's if they're not doing enough listening. And I also put the grace notes in pretty much straight away. So D, 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 in bar 13, that is the reason that they cannot play it in first position. If they want to do that grace note, it just doesn't work. And so the way that I would teach this is quite slow and carefully, and again, talking about how much they work out by themselves. Obviously they know the minuet from book 1. Lots of them will work out lots of the minor by themselves, but here I want to show them right, now we're going to put the one where the 3 was, and now we're in blue finger pattern. So they would practice that, and then, okay, swap your fingers. Now put your 3 back where your 3 was in first position. So it's the same thing, but we're staying higher up. And there's the shift. So both of those would be in boxes, and they would be very carefully taking the time, not trying to play it in time until they've really understood what's happening with those 2 shifts up and down. And it's not yellow with a hot pink 3 finger position, so you do need to go over the fact that it's blue fingers. Good, and then there's no shifting in bottom G minor. And Humoresque has loads. And I don't understand for the life of me why they don't put the A and the D in third position at the end of bar 8. Beginning of bar 8, sorry, end of second line.
Yeah.
It's so perfect. It's 2 open string notes. They can check the intonation really easily. Anyway, if you do teach that, which I hope you will, this is the first time they've got a guide note shift, i.e. you travel on the 1 into third position, like a ghosty. You drop your 1 and then you put your 2 on. You want to really be careful that they're not practicing this. That they're not just jumping for it.
It's a 1 slide.
So the 1 is the travelling finger, and that's called a guide note shift. And that will be the first time they learn about a guide note outside of an exercise. Then we have a jumping shift in bar 15. I.e. just, and the line above it, shifting during an open string.
Is there a reason you don't do the first shift on that line?
Yes, I really like them practicing the open E to the 4 for the intonation and the handshake. And I also like the bright sound that and normally in review I'm practicing the first portamento shift, which means sliding on the finger you're going to, not the finger you're leaving. So a guide note shift would be moving on the 2 and then plopping the 3 on. But a portamento shift or a romantic shift is putting the finger you're going to down before you start moving and allowing the slide to be heard. So So a guide note shift is the finger you're leaving, taking you into the new position, and then the new finger going down once you're there. A romantic shift or a portamento shift is putting the finger you're going to down before you leave your old position and making a feature of the shift into the new position. And a jumping shift is where you're on an open string before, so you kind of jump into position. And then basically these are all kind of jumping shifts, even though you do have fingers down before. It's not a guide note shift because you just...
Is this the first jumping shift we learned?
No, the first jumping shift is in bar 11.
So no slide.
Yeah. You're already there. I do stay in third position here and play 1, 2, 2, G. Then you're already there. And then obviously it's the same. I personally don't teach the shift here because I think it's really good for them as a preparation for all that kind of stuff that happens in book 4, to really get the left hand doing those tricky things and to think about the left elbow, but obviously it's got pros and cons both ways. And I also prefer a 4 on the first A of the last bar, so that we hear that harmonic all the way up rather than 2, 2, 2, 4. I like the romance of being able to hear the slide
So,
at the very end.
okay.
So to make the first A a 4, not a 2,
Okay.
and then 2, 4, 4, 4. Then back of the rock's got one shift in bar 17, 16. You know, if you have prepared them for shifting well, that should just be a tiny little extra thing for them to do, not a big deal. And then again in gavotte in D major, you just got that one shift in gavotte number 2. In bar 2 and 3 of the second gavotte. And again, that just shouldn't be a big deal. The intonation sometimes needs a bit of help because it's yellow with a hot P3, but otherwise, you know, it's not a difficult shift. And then bar 4 doesn't have any shifting in it at all.
Thank goodness.
So if you think about those very, very small number of options that you've got to put shifting in, and then Vivaldi A minor,
Yeah.
you really need to make sure that they're doing other pieces with lots of shifting. We do lots, by the end of book 3, they're doing lots of tonalisation all on 3. So they're just practicing really getting around. Shall we play?
So when would this be happening?
Late book 3, early book 4. Certainly they can do tonalisation in first, second and third position, easy peasy. Some of them will do it in fourth as well, although it's a bit tricky with the 4 on the G string. But if they like that kind of thing, that's fun. And all on 3, all on 2, all on 1.
Interesting.
I will give you my handout. Have I given you my handout about tonalisation? Advanced, fun ideas for advanced tonalisations. No, okay, I will.
Advanced fun.
So we're going to play the major all on 3, and then we'll stop and play the minor all on 2. Okay, sorry, I should have said, don't try and hide the slides, let them happen on the end of the note so that you can hear that you got into the right position. You're not practicing. It's really hard. It doesn't help you with your fingerboard geography. First position, fourth position, first position, second position. And stop there. Good. Now switch to 2. Minor. And it doesn't matter if you go up or back down onto the E.
Oh, that's hot.
Good. And the other thing that's really helpful at this stage is if you really want to make sure that they are doing the shifting and that you can hear it, is to play what we call loopy bows. It's also called viotti bowing. So let's just try that. Pick any finger you want. But, so, what happens with the bow is that you change when you're not changing finger, and then you change your finger, well not your finger, position, while you're slurring the bow. So let's just play like this in first position. So that's just to get the overlappingness, yeah? So, slur, slur. Okay, now we'll do the minor all on 3. Same bowing. Loopy bows. Think about bringing your thumb back a bit, Devon. Yeah. So that's also really great for your playing because it practices a really legato string crossing with a shift over different strings sometimes. Very good. I think that is pretty much. I mean, I think, you know, it's impossible to ever stop with teacher training, isn't it? Because this also brings me to the fact that, you know, during book 3, it's a really good idea to do lots of well, not necessarily lots, but to make sure they are playing some out of repertoire pieces that have got some shifting in. The Shostakovich Gadfly Romance is a really nice one, maybe for book 4 rather than book 3. Puppet Show from the Barbara Barber Solos for Young Violinists. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh.
We can shift in the.
That's one with a fret, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or La Cinquantaine. Like, you know, the shifting options within the Suzuki repertoire don't really prepare you for Vivaldi A minor and then perpetual motion, and then Bach double. So we can plug the gap with all the games and stuff that we've been talking about and the exercises we've been talking about, but I do think there is something really great about them just doing pieces with more shifting in as well.
So which other ones are you recommending? The Shostakovich one?
Shostakovich Gadfly, La Cinquantaine,
Gadfly, how do you get that?
Gadfly. It's from a film. La Cinquantaine, Cinquitaine.
Who's that by?
It wasn't me.
Yeah, you're French. It's lovely.
Who's the writer?
I don't remember.
Last time on what was that?
10, Taine. I think it's in the second book. Oh, but this was the thing at the end.
La Cinquantaine.
La Cinquantaine. Gabrielle Marie.
How do you spell Marie?
Marie.
M-A.
And it's hyphenated, so Gabriel stroke Marie.
Marie.
Yeah, loads of the things in this are really good for that though.
That's the Barbara books.
Yeah,
Which one is it?
this is number 1, but
Book 1.
yeah, La Cinquantaine's in book 2.
When would you teach Thais?
Thais, meditation.
Meditation.
Oh, book 6,
Okay.
earliest. Just trying to think. The Huber. Not necessarily.
Is there a Dun Club? Is that the...
Oh, La Cinquantaine is in book 1, sorry. Yeah, puppet show. It's got this part in the middle. Which is pretty horrid in first, so I was practicing that, playing that. 1. With a little bit of second, but I mean it's mostly not for shifting that. La Cinquantaine is a much better one for shifting.
When would you teach Shardas?
Same, book 6. But then once you're into book 2 of the solos for young violinists, there are loads of really good shifting pieces, like the Boy Paganini. Do you guys know this? It's really fun.
Was that a great piece once?
Probably. So I would say that's sort of middle of book 4 into book 5, or above. Then there is the reading concertos. Basically, almost anything that she does is really helpful. And if you're ever short for extra pieces, the grade books are just really useful because you can look up, what are the technical requirements, like see, okay, first and third position or first, third and fifth position or whatever. You'll definitely know you're going to have good quality recording available. They're pretty cheap to get, and the kids do like to know what grade they're playing, even if they haven't done an exam. Like if they say, I'm playing a grade 6 piece, they feel very excited about that. Any questions about shifting? That's a small topic.
No, I'm just going to think about my thumb now. Maybe changing that.
So as an overview, book 1 you learn to play the violin, book 2 you learn your shifting, book 3 you learn vibrato and refine your shifting so that you are able to use shifting properly by book 4. And the way that you're introducing shifting is as 2 separate things, one playing in different positions and secondly getting in and out of first and third. And then you start to put them together with your D major scale and super easy pieces, not from the repertoire. And then during book 3 you've got, you basically I want to use all of the opportunities in book 3 for shifting, because otherwise once you get to book 4 you really hit a brick wall.
Mm.
Cool? Great. Thank you very much. Let's have a bow. Right, well done everyone.
See, right at the end.
Which has been your favourite?
Something to this one.
Yeah.